Good evening, friends. It's Heather, the Malachite Lady. I quote, I believe it's Winston Churchill who said, if you're going through hell, keep going. So, as you saw from the content warning at the beginning of the video, this is a video that is going to touch on some kind of touchy subjects. Wanting to talk to you today for Wellness Wednesday about mental health, and that can be kind of triggery to some. So if this is a hard topic for you right now, then feel free to keep going and go watch videos of puppies and kittens or whatever makes you happy, snakes, lizards, car races, whatever makes you happy, because I certainly don't want to make anyone's day harder. That's not what this is all about. So I just wanted to take some time on Wellness Wednesday to talk to you about mental health, because my wellness journey isn't just about losing weight, getting in shape, training for a half marathon. It's about holistic health, and it's about learning how to love who I am and the body I'm in while I'm trying to get that body healthier. And if you are one of the 1 in 5 U.S. adults in the United States, because obviously you would be a U.S. adult if you're in the United States, but if you're one of the 1 in 5 U.S. adults living right now with mental illness, let me help rest you assured, I can talk really, that you're not alone. There are millions and millions and millions of us that are dealing with some form of mental illness, whether it's depression, whether it's bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, OCD, post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever, you're not alone. I have been dealing with clinical depression since my early teens. Just didn't really realize that's what it was called. I dealt with seasonal affective disorder from the time I was a very young person, probably 2nd or 3rd grade, but Daddy called it cabin fever. We didn't really know what that was every winter that would get me. And when you live in Colorado and there's not a whole lot of light for months on end, it tends to really trigger that sort of thing. So I just wanted to talk to you all about some mental health things, including talking to you about my own journey with mental illness. But I got some infographics. They're really pretty cool from the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So I just wanted to share some statistics with you as we are approaching the end of Mental Health Awareness Month. The month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So, as I said, 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience mental illness. 1 in 20 adults experience serious mental illness. And 17% of youth ages 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder. And it breaks down into, the different types of mental illness and that sort of thing. But one of the things that I really want to encourage you, if you are one of the 1 in 5 or the 1 in 20 U.S. adults dealing with mental illness, again, you are not alone. And there are ways to get some help. I do wish that mental health was treated the same as any other illness, where you could just walk into your doctor's office or your nurse practitioner or physician's assistant and say, hey, I'm feeling depressed, and they would treat you just like they would if you were diabetic or had a heart condition. And we won't even go into the topic of healthcare in the United States. I'm going to try not to delve too deeply into politics and society and all of that in this channel. But I wish that mental health and healthcare in general were more accessible to Americans, because there are people who have to make the decision every single day Do I put food on my family's table, or do I go get medication today? Do I go see a doctor? They have to choose. And part of the channel is all about helping you learn how to solve a little bit of your food insecurity through gardening. It, of course, is not going to completely cure it, but we'll talk more as the channel progresses on how to grow things on your back deck. If all you have is like a 3-foot by 3-foot little concrete slab, we can learn how to grow things there for you. And I am certainly happy to answer any questions about food insecurity and try to point you into the direction of some resources that might help you with that if you are struggling with putting food on your family's table. I certainly want to help as much as I can. I'm not a social worker. I am just the random stranger on the internet with a big heart that wants to make sure that you and your children do not go hungry. So that is part of mental health, is if you're constantly worrying about where your next meal is going to come from, whether or not, especially with the pandemic, so many people lost their jobs, and we've been very isolated because of the pandemic, you know, the social distancing. I am a hugger by nature. I'm touchy-feely. I like to shake people's hands and give people hugs. And it's been very difficult the last 14 months not to be able to do that, not to be able to sit and have dinner with our friends the way we were before the pandemic. Thankfully, those things are easing off some. The cases in our area are going way, way down. More people are getting vaccinated, but it is still out there, and it's probably here to stay, to be honest. It's probably going to be very much like the flu, where we have to get a vaccine every year. But, you know, I'm definitely willing to do that in order to be able to have dinner with my friends occasionally. And my family. I was excited to actually be able to see my mom for the first time in over a year, a few months ago. So the social isolation is a very real thing. So don't think you're imagining it if you are feeling isolated. It is a very real thing. And so I really recommend, as part of your self-care, as part of your mental health, reach out. Or at least be willing to be reached out to. I know that when you're really depressed, sometimes it's difficult for you to reach out to someone, but if you're also not willing when they reach out to you to bridge that connection, that will isolate you even further. So I highly recommend, you know, I encourage you to at least be willing to be reached out to, even if you're not really there to be able to reach out to someone else. So I'm going to put my email address in the description box. If you need just a random stranger on the internet to reach out to, please feel free to email me, and I'll be glad to just be a listening ear, a completely non-judgmental, unbiased, because for the most part, I probably won't know who you are, and you won't know who I am, except from what I'm sharing on YouTube. So I also want to, this is kind of where some of the touchy subject, I mean, mental health in general is a touchy subject, but I do want to talk for a minute about suicide, and that it is definitely not the answer. And one of the flippant things that a friend of mine used to say is, you know, don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And, you know, that is flippant, but it's true. But when you are at that point where you're thinking that that is your only answer, it's hard to dissuade someone of that. So some more facts from the National Alliance on Mental Health, that suicide is the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 34. I was a little surprised by that, but at this point, not really, especially after the last 14 months. Overall, the suicide rate has increased 35% since 1999, and it's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. I don't know if that statistic is current with COVID numbers taken into account, because I know COVID has killed a number of people. So, but 46% of people who die by suicide have a diagnosed mental health condition. And 90% of people who die by suicide have experienced symptoms of a mental health condition. So I encourage you that if you're feeling down in the dumps, depressed, you know, most of us will say, I'm just having a bad day, or I'm, you know, struggling, but I'll be okay. I'm fine. I'm just tired. How many times have you said that? So if you are experiencing some of those symptoms, please get some help if you can. The world needs all of us. The world needs all of our gifts and our input and our inspiration to others. So the world needs you. If you needed a sign, I'm hoping that you're watching this video and that you see it as the sign that you needed, that the world needs you and your gifts and your talents and your beauty in it. If you need some help with finding a mental health professional, or if you're considering suicide and you need some help, you need to talk with somebody, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. And I'll put that in the description as well, just in case you need it for further future reference and you don't want to scroll through the video to find it. It's pretty easy to find if you just Google. And there are some states that actually have a text, a monitored text line where you can just text somebody. Most of us live on our phones. So they're trying to make it easier for people to get help. If you think that you're just kind of down in the dumps and not really sure, there are some common warning signs of mental illness. So if you've been feeling sad or withdrawn for more than 2 weeks, that's a warning sign. If you are trying to harm or trying to harm yourself, end your life, or making plans to do so, definitely a warning sign. Severe, out of control, risk-taking behaviors that cause harm to yourself or someone else is a warning sign. Sudden, overwhelming fear for no reason, sometimes with a racing heart, physical discomfort, difficulty breathing. Sounds like a panic attack, right? Because it is. Significant weight loss or gain, seeing, hearing, or believing things that aren't real, excessive use of alcohol or drugs, drastic changes in your mood, behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. When I was first diagnosed with depression, I had actually gone to my doctor because I wasn't sleeping. I didn't really realize that what I was dealing with was depression. And when I went to the doctor, while I had some problems with that particular physician later on, he was the first one to actually say, wait, let's explore this further, because you've got not only the not sleeping, but you've got some other things that maybe are symptoms of a mental health disorder. And so he was the doctor that got me diagnosed and started on medication, and life has gotten a lot better since then. If you are on medication, please take it the way it's prescribed. There's a reason you're prescribed the particular medication you are and the particular dosage that you are. So if you need the medication, please take it. But if you are taking medication, prescription or otherwise, that you don't need, that's also a problem. And like I said, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, I'm just someone with a big heart that wants to help you get better. So please, if you or if someone you love are having some of these symptoms, get some help if you can. I know that is easier said than done. I'm speaking to you from the home that I own. I have a full-time job with medical insurance. I know I am very, very, very lucky. I can say, go to the doctor, go to the therapist, go get some medication, because I can walk out there and do that. I have those resources, and I know not all of you do. And that's part of what I hate about the way that healthcare works in our country, is because I can't just sit here and say, oh no, go get help. You can go and just do that and make an appointment today. But I know that's not the case for everybody. And I apologize if I'm making your situation worse by encouraging you to get help that you are not able to go get. But there are that suicide prevention hotline if you want to just talk about it with somebody at the National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's 1-800-950-NAMI or 1-800-950-6264. So basically, Wellness Wednesday today is about mental health. I'm taking a very holistic approach to my wellness that involves getting my body in shape, getting my mind in shape, getting my spirit in shape. And so today I definitely wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about mental health, and that it is as important, and sometimes more so, than making sure you're eating the right macros and getting the right exercise and lifting the right weights and all of that, brushing and flossing and all of that. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health, because without your mental health, your physical health will deteriorate, because you'll quit caring whether you take a shower, you'll quit caring whether you've eaten anything today or if you've drunk any water. And I think next week's video is going to be all about the importance of hydration. So stay tuned for that. But thank you for taking some time out of your day today to listen to me ramble about mental health. And please do reach out, whether it's to me or to your therapist or to your bestie. I have some besties that have literally saved my life. My husband is one of them. I'm a very, very lucky girl, and I know that. So reach out, journal. For years and years and years, I joked that my journal is what kept me out of therapy. And now I'm actually using it as a conjunction and a complement to therapy. So it's my therapist when I don't get to see my therapist. But I do see a mental health professional. And it was very scary when I first went, because my mother was a narcissist. She's no longer with us. But my mother was a narcissist and went to therapy probably once a week for most of my childhood and never got any better. And so I blamed therapy. I figured that it doesn't really work, and why should I bother going? So I balked against it for a very, very, very long time. And I finally got to that moment of clarity that you hear, addicts and alcoholics talk about. But that moment of clarity where it's like, you know what, I need some professional help. The journal isn't fixing all of it, and just being on medication isn't fixing all of it. And I am not one that trusts very easily. So I felt like I was going to throw up as I was driving to that first appointment. And I got very lucky. I live a charmed life. I know that. I got very lucky with the therapist that I randomly drew out of a hat, pretty much. I had a list that my insurance company said that they would cover. And I went in there, and she and I clicked from the first visit. So I've been seeing her for 5 years now, and it's been 4 years, a little over 4 years. And I've really gotten a lot out of the visits, even though it seems like all we talk about are the stressy things that I'm going through at work, especially being a decision maker in a pandemic, or talking about my garden or what race I've got coming up. But just having somebody with more of an objective point of view than, say, my bestie does, although, you know, she does tend to tell me I'm smoking some kind of crazy drugs if I start talking really crazy. She'll steer me right, but I'm very lucky with who I got as a therapist, and so don't feel like that it won't work for you if it didn't work for somebody else. It may be that they just didn't have the right therapist or the right type of therapist. There are so many schools of psychology out there, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy, you know, pharmaceutical intervention, things like that. So don't think that if you go in and you talk to somebody and you don't get help immediately, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the fault of therapy. It may be that you're not ready for therapy yet and you need to try again. It may be that you're just not clicking with that therapist. It may be that you need some pharmaceutical intervention in addition to the actual talking to, you know, get your biochemistry straightened out before you can even begin to dig yourself out of the hole you're in. So, and if you're on a depression medication and you're really bipolar, that can be a problem. It may be that you're on a medication for the wrong kind of neurotransmitter. Again, I'm not a scientist. I'm an information scientist, not a biological scientist, is how I describe it. So I'm definitely not here to give you medical advice, except that if you need help, there are people who can help you. And there are ways you can get help at little or no cost. So please don't let that be the barrier for you. But no, you are not alone. There are people out there who will reach out their hand and help you. Don't feel isolated, even in this 14 months of isolation. That's one of the reasons I kind of started this channel, was because I was feeling isolated, and now I have 1 million people to talk to, even if only 4 people actually look at the videos. So until next time, be happy and be healthy and be you.